Welcome to our webinar on the updated 2017-2018 Smarter Balanced Teacher Hand Scoring System. This presentation provides detailed step-by-step instructions on how to use the Teacher Hand Scoring System to score open-ended student responses to the interim assessments. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Christy Alvarino, ELA Consultant for the Bureau of Student Assessment. I've worked for the Connecticut State Department of Education for more than 12 years, and I've served in a national leadership role with the Smarter Balance Consortium with a focus on English language arts across grades 3 through 8 and high school. In this presentation, I will quickly review the uses of the Interim Assessment Blocks. There are several resources that support the scoring of the interim assessments, which I will discuss before I delve into how to access and use the Smarter Balance Interim Assessment Teacher Hand Scoring System. This system is used to score the open-ended responses in English language arts and math. To support instructional next steps in mathematics and English language arts literacy instruction, information on the digital library, and a number of practical applications will be presented. Please feel free to contact my office at 860-713-6860 with any questions you might have. The quick answer to explain the purpose and intent of the interims is the interims are a way to check student progress and to gather information about learning that can alter the instruction provided. Interims offer flexibility, and both the math and the ELA interims can be used for professional development or in class with students in a variety of ways. The State Department of Education is not dictating if or when you use the interims, but I will caution you to keep in mind the purposes and appropriate uses of these interims. And I need to point out that the interims benefit students as well as teachers because they allow them the chance to practice on a subset of grade-level appropriate focused skills in math and ELA using an online platform, the same online platform they will use when they take the summative assessments. The interim blocks include all types of items that are also used on the summative assessments. The exposure to the expectations within the system is important, and responding to open-ended items in ELA or on the math and ELA performance tasks allows students the opportunity to actually showcase their work and strategic thinking in a way that cannot be captured by computer-scored items. The interims provide a snapshot of students' abilities in a specific area. There is a menu of interim assessments available across grades 3 through 8 and high school in both math and English language arts, and they can be used off grade level. Interims are brief and measure a focused set of skills. The results can be used to identify strengths and weaknesses, both at the individual or group level, and help inform next steps for supporting student learning. This can lead to collaborative conversations about teaching within and even across grades. For instance, perhaps a grade 4 class is struggling with a mathematical skill. Since the mathematics standards are built on progressions, this may be because they missed something in grade 3. In addition, since the topics are divided into blocks containing grade-appropriate skills, teachers can see a natural fit of the blocks within the curriculum. The Smarter Balance Teacher Hand Scoring System is intended to be a self-guided process where users can take the appropriate time to access the rubrics and ancillary materials to then score student responses. On a global scale, the scoring rubrics and training materials allow for scoring calibration to a fixed rubric that provides a consistent ruler among scorers and helps them better understand the expectations of the skills being measured. Across grade levels, content areas, and item types, the Teacher Hand Scoring System materials are formatted in similar styles. Each item has a rubric, a training guide, and an exemplar set. Hand scoring allows teachers to interpret strengths and weaknesses for student performance on the specific skills being assessed. Student responses can be one piece of evidence used as a measure by teachers to evaluate student understanding and determine instructional next steps. Hand scoring of the interim assessments is a local responsibility. It's critical that teachers and hand scorers read the Teacher Hand Scoring System User Guide thoroughly and are familiar with the supporting documents such as scoring rubrics located in the training guide and anchors located in the exemplar guide to ensure accuracy when scoring student responses. The hand scoring training materials are available for download in TIDE. The Teacher Hand Scoring System is the one platform that supports the scoring of open-ended items used by the interim assessments. It is accessed on the Connecticut Assessment Portal with a TIDE username and password and provides teacher access to open-ended student responses and scoring rubrics and training guides that are associated with those specific items. The first step prior to accessing interim results is to determine if the administered block contains items that are machine-scored only, a combination of machine-scored and hand-scored items, or solely hand-scored items, such as the brief write blocks. Use the ELA and MAP interim assessment crosswalk documents available in TIDE to determine which items require hand scoring. Access to data via Airway's reporting system will be dependent on the types of items within the block. For example, blocks that are entirely machine-scored will yield immediate results through Airways. However, blocks containing open-ended items will require teacher training for hand scoring and the actual scoring of these items in the teacher hand scoring system before any data is available for that particular block. Each of these blocks contains one or more items that require hand scoring. Before you begin scoring in the Teacher Hand Scoring System, there are a number of things you can do to familiarize yourself with this tool and the various resources that coincide with it. Once a student takes a test in the test delivery system and submits it, the system forwards the hand-scored responses to the Teacher Hand Scoring System for scoring, where authorized users can view student responses to each item, enter scores, and mark them with condition codes if necessary. After hand scoring is complete, the student's scores are forwarded to the online reporting system and/or Airways, where they become available for authorized users to view, download, and print. The assessment viewing application allows educators with TIDE access to view interim assessments for planning and preparation. It also provides educators with information about focus concepts and skills assessed within a given block. The items presented in AVA are the actual interim assessment items, and they are presented exactly as students would view them when completing the interim block. For any questions you might have on how to use the various systems in the portal and to find brochures and quick guides for making a roster or administering an interim assessment, use the Resources tab on the top bar of the Connecticut portal as shown on this slide. To access the Teacher Hand Scoring System, choose the Smarter Balance Assessment button on the left side of the page. This gives you access to systems associated with Smarter Balance. Other systems include the Digital Library, Practice and Training Tests, Manuals for Online Testing, and Smarter Balance resources. Locate the TIDE link in the top row. You should have a TIDE username and password from your district. If you don't, please see your district administrator. This is the sign-in page. Once you've logged on, you will be able to access the Teacher Hand Scoring System materials, which will help you prepare to score student responses from the Smarter Balance interim assessments. The materials are located in zip files by content and grade level. They can be downloaded or printed. You can also find the crosswalk documents for ELA and mathematics that highlight each open-ended item in the blocks and the interim comprehensive assessments. Once you've opened the folder, you can download the zip drive. If you choose not to access these materials, through TIDE. They are also accessible in the teacher hand scoring system after students have completed the assessment, the interim assessment block, but only for that particular item being scored. Each folder contains an item-specific rubric, a training guide labeled TG, and an exemplar set labeled EX for each hand-scored item. Every training guide contains the item-specific stimulus, item stem, target-specific rubric, condition code, and a target chart. The condition codes are the only part that is the same for reading, research, and brief rights. The full right codes provide a more extensive list. These materials, again, are also accessible in the teacher hand scoring system once the students have completed an interim assessment block, but you will only see the materials for the particular item being scored. If you open one of these documents, you'll find instructions that provide step-by-step directions for using the materials. There's a stimulus, which is the passage or text to which the students are asked to respond, an item stem, which could be the question or task that students are asked to complete, a target-specific rubric that you should use to score the student responses, a list of condition codes to use during scoring to identify reasons that responses may not be scoreable, and every training guide contains a target chart that shows all the targets and standards associated with the claim to which that item aligns. At any point throughout the year, you can move through the self-guided documents to train alone, or you can train with your colleagues. These materials can be printed, or you can work through them on your computer. Just remember not to post them electronically or to share them publicly, as these are test materials, so they're non-public. Before I leave this page, there's one more valuable resource that I want to share. If you click on the inbox on the top right side of the screen, you will find the new Smarter Balance Interim Assessment Keys. When downloaded, there are 2 folders designated by ELA and Math. Within each folder, you will find that files are available for the interim blocks and the interim comprehensive assessments and clearly labeled by grade. When administering the test to students, teachers will use the same test administration site used to administer the summative assessments. Teachers can use TIDE to monitor student progress throughout the testing by selecting the corresponding tab under the Administering Tests application. Now, students have completed their interim blocks, and several of those blocks contained 1 or more open-ended items. In order to see their final results, you have to score those open-ended items in the teacher hand scoring system. In that system, there are 2 types of roles that authorized users can have. These are scorer or score manager. Users will not see these roles in TIDE, but they are assigned based on your TIDE user roles. For example, any user with a teacher or test administrator role in TIDE is automatically a scorer. A test coordinator is automatically a score manager. I'll talk about access to score and score manager, but remember that these are teacher hand scoring access roles and not TIDE access roles. The primary difference between a scorer and a score manager has to do with reassigning items for scoring. Scorers may only reassign items that are currently assigned to them. Managers may reassign any item associated with their school. As I move through the screenshots of the teacher hand scoring system, I will provide images of score managers' access to delineate between the levels of roles. Just a note, you can move between the various systems associated with the Smarter Balance assessments once you've signed in to any application. Simply access the drop-down menu on the left side of your screen, and you will find the other connecting applications. If you want to access the teacher hand scoring system from the portal, you would again choose the Smarter Balance Assessment button on the left side of the page. Take a moment to identify the teacher hand scoring system application and choose that. Once you arrive at the login page, you would use your username and password and then click Secure Login to continue. The first screen that appears is the response list page. For scorers, this page will automatically show all responses assigned to them for scoring. Responses are assigned by default to the teacher who proctored the session in which the student submitted the test. Score managers will see all responses in their jurisdiction. All users can filter the responses that appear in the response list table using the drop-down list for test session and items. Score managers can additionally filter the table by grade, subject, or assigned scorer. When you open a drop-down list above the table, you can either select a response shown in the list or type in your own keyword to use as a filter. The table will show only the items that match your filter. Items in the table may be sorted by clicking on the header of the column you wish to sort. Click Student Name to sort the items by student's name. Click Item to sort the items by item name, or Session to sort the items by session ID. You can also click Status to sort those items that are scored versus those that are not. When you click on the Score button next to an item, the Score response page for that item will appear. The first thing you'll see in the Rubric section is the rubric and the description for the item to be scored. To view anchor papers, you can click on the Exemplar tab. To view any instructions for scoring each item, and to view the item's stimulus, question, or task, you can click on the Training Guides tab. Once these are open for the specific item you're scoring, you can download the files to your computer. So if you choose not to go into TIDE and access all of the documents at once, you can get only those for the items you are actively scoring right here on the teacher hand scoring system. You also have the response section that contains the item stem and the student's response. And lastly, the scoring section, where you can document their score or condition code. While scoring, you might find it helpful to expand or collapse any of these different sections by clicking the plus or minus sign in the left-hand corner of that section. In order to assign a score to a response, use the drop-down menu. Scorers can move between responses with the Next Response button on the bottom right, or return to the original list of students and items taken by choosing the Back to Response List button on the left. But scorers are not logged into the system until you click Submit Score at the bottom of the page. If you choose a number and move on without hitting Submit the Score, you will need to return to this page to submit the score. When you have finished scoring responses, you will need to submit the scores. To submit scored items, mark the checkbox on the left of each scored response on the response page next to the student's name, and click the button labeled Mark Selected as Complete at the very bottom. Once an item is marked complete, it is immediately submitted and can no longer be edited or viewed in the teacher hand scoring system. Once all of a student's items for a specific test have been scored and marked complete, the student's score for the entire test will become available in Airways. All open-ended responses can be viewed in the Airways system, but at that point, no edits can be made to the item response or the score it received. When you choose Mark Selected as Complete, you will be prompted one more time before you submit that score. The test delivery system will now automatically suggest a preliminary score on the ELA Performance Task Full Write. These responses are displayed as tentatively scored, as displayed on your screen, Scorers will need to review the scoring rubrics, exemplars, and training guides and approve or modify the final scores across the 3 scoring criteria before submitting a final score. Just a note, the machine-scored suggestion is only available for the ELA Performance Task Full Write. Whoever administers a block using the test administration system will have all of those open-ended student responses automatically assigned to them in the teacher hand scoring system. A school or district administrator or that specific teacher to whom the responses are assigned can reassign those student responses by checking the box to the left of the student's name and clicking the Reassign All Select button. A drop-down menu will appear with a new score to be selected from those within your district. Then, by simply clicking Reassign, the student's responses will now be the responsibility of another scorer. Please note that only one scorer can score a response, and once it's scored, it is no longer accessible in the teacher hand scoring system. Now that you're all familiar with teacher hand scoring system, I want to just walk through the ELA interim assessment blocks. This is a useful chart to let you know which blocks require hand scoring. The blocks that are represented by a star indicate that they contain items requiring hand scoring. In English Language Arts, all grades from 3 through 7 and 11 have the same blocks available. However, grade 8 currently has fewer blocks in writing. The Smarter Balance content specifications also provide detailed information about the assessment targets. Assessment targets for each claim provide more detail about the range of content, alignment to the standards, and depth of knowledge levels being assessed. Content specifications can be found on the Smarter Balance website. In an effort to fully understand the expectations of the hand scoring process, we have outlined steps that will help ensure calibration and accuracy in scoring. For each item you're scoring, please read the training guide, closely examine each exemplar and the corresponding annotations, take notes on every paper, delineating the differences between score points, but be sure to pay attention to the line papers between the points, and then complete the check set as a practice. Each time you access a new item, you will read the stimulus and the item stem, then the rubric, read the student's response, provide a score, and keep notes to justify your score. Now that you're familiar with how to score student responses, you need to know how the scores for the interim assessment blocks are actually reported. First, the interim assessments blocks are reported using what is called a performance category, and you'll notice that they have the same names as the summative claim achievement categories. So hopefully it won't surprise you that we use the same process as was used to determine the claim scores on these performance categories. A combination of raw score and item difficulty results in a scale score with a standard error of measure. Then we compare the standard cut for that grade level and content area, which then gives us the performance category. The interim assessment blocks are groups of items about similar topics. Blocks with harder content likely have more items with higher difficulty values. Raw points on one block topic cannot be compared to raw points on another topic. So let's look at item difficulty and how it contributes to a score. Some blocks have content that is harder for students than in other blocks. This means that those blocks with harder content will have items with higher difficulty levels, which leads to higher scale score. Remember that the smaller number of items on a test, the greater the standard error of measure. So blocks with less items, such as the brief rights, have a larger standard error of measure. This diagram may help you better understand the 3 performance categories. For grade 3, the cut score between levels 2 and 3 is 2432, represented by that black line. So if a student has a scale score of 2431, they would be below the line in the 2 performance level. At or above 2432 is a 3. When a score is clearly above the line, which would be the blue dot, not only in the scale score, but the standard error of measure as well, it's considered above. The standard error of measure is represented by the black line going from the top to the bottom of the screen outside of the blue dot. When a scale score, including the standard error of measure, is completely below the line, it is below. When it's above the line, it is above, and when it touches the line, it is at or near. We've collapsed levels 2 and 3 so that you have below, at or near, or above. The goal here is to incorporate all of the information that we've collected into our own teaching. But first, you need to know how to access the results of the blocks students have taken. There are 2 systems in which you can view student results to the interim assessments: the online reporting system and the Airways reporting system. Users of the online reporting system will still be able to access individual student reports for the interim assessments, but will not have access to item-level detailed information or be able to view items or the students' responses to those items. The online reporting system is used for high-level student, roster, school, and district score reporting with the ability to delineate by subgroup. But for teachers and administrators that want item-level reports, Airways is a valuable tool and a source of guidance to tailor classroom instruction based on a student's individual performance on those blocks. Airways is the reporting system designed to provide detailed student performance reports for interim assessments, and it's the only system that supplies information for the interims and no other assessments. Airways consists of a dashboard page and various assessment reports. The dashboard is the landing page. After logging into the system, this page displayed is automatic, and it's called My Assessments. It gives you sorting options. First, you can find data by assessment name. That's the column on the left. It lists the name of the interim assessment blocks that were administered. If I click on the underlined name, I gain access to an incredible amount of class and student level information. Our next screen will provide some specific examples of that. Next, I have a column entitled Test Reason, which is a category that now allows you to assign a name to a test opportunity, such as pre-test or post-test, fall, winter, or spring, test 1, 2, or 3, and so forth. If no test reason is assigned, the column displays unassigned, which is what you see on this slide. The dashboard also lets you know the number of students who completed the assessment in the student count column. Average scores are the sum of average scores for all your students divided by the student count, should you administer an interim comprehensive assessment. Remember that this is the equivalent of a summative assessment, and we recommend that you contact us before using this. In the column entitled Performance Distribution, you'll be able to find the percentage of your students who performed at each performance level. Again, there are 3 levels of student performance that are reported for an interim block: below, at or near, or above standard. Airways not only provides the percentage of students for each performance level on a given block, but color codes those levels: red for below, yellow for at or near, and green for above. And lastly, you can sort tests by the most recent date on which one of your students completed the assessment. Any of the columns can be sorted. Those are indicated by an arrow on the top right corner of that column. Once I've clicked on the underlined test name, it will take me to this page. It shows me the name of all the students who took that block. If you look to the left of the screen, the row numbered 1 is actually aligned with the word everyone. This portion of the report shows how all of your students averaged on the test overall, as well as the group average on each individual item. Now find number 2 on the top right side of the screen. If you want to see the item just as the students saw it, you can click on the item number in the top row. This will show the actual item as well as item details such as difficulty level and target alignment. The answer is also provided for you on this screen. Perhaps you want to see how only one student performed across all the items in this block. If you find number 3 in the middle of the left side of the screen, it will help you locate the student on which you can click on their name. This provides information on not only that one student, but compares their responses to the average correct responses by the group as a whole. And lastly, I can see each student's response to an item. If I find number 4 in the center of the screen, I can choose an item for a specific student, and I can also access their response as well as all of the other student responses for that assessment. What I really want to encourage is for you to look past the charts full of numbers and the category labels and really dig into the items themselves. Some questions that could be asked are, were there items that all your students struggled with? So did students perform badly due to a specific item type, or was the particular skill being measured not introduced in the curriculum? Were there items that all of your students did well on? Are there any patterns in the way that they responded? Were there outliers, items that all but a few students did well on? What instruction would benefit those students? Were there trends in answers based on particular types of items? Does it look like students know what to do with technology-enhanced items like graphing or drag and drop? Are they handling the multiple select items, which allow them to choose more than one correct answer correctly? What did you notice while you were hand-scoring constructed response items in the teacher hand-scoring system? Another resource available to you is the digital library. This can be helpful whether you're using the interims or not, but now we have some new features available. A Connections playlist is a collection of resources on the digital library that addresses a particular progression in skills or the understanding for a topic. They all are created by trained educators. There are now 24 available for English language arts and 19 for math. They are broken down by performance level, the left column explaining what the child has accomplished at that performance level, and the right column explains ways that you can enhance your teaching and provide some links to instruction and support. The instructional playlists are resources that center around the content that's measured in an interim assessment block. The instructional playlists are intended to supplement core curriculum and help educators by supplying learning goals and success criteria for focused skill areas. These lists include lessons and resources to reinforce specific skills and are available for both math and ELA. Currently, there are 14 instructional playlists available on the digital library, 2 per grade, 1 in ELA and 1 in math. This is a list of all of the available instructional playlists by grade. This is the point where you need to think about your own classroom populations and the individual needs of your students. Think about both the struggling and high-performing readers, the English language learners, and students with disabilities. Based on the expectations and the standards and your newly gained understanding of the scoring rubrics in the interim assessments, how might you enhance your instruction based on the valuable information you receive when scoring open-ended items? There are countless ways to connect the information learned from the interim results to instructional strategies that can be integrated into the daily curriculum. Teachers might use the assessment viewing application to demonstrate how to solve a math problem or write an introduction to an essay using one item from the interim block. Performance tasks or brief rights can easily be extended to teach a skill not necessarily measured by the item. For example, a narrative brief right asking the students to write an opening to the story can be used to teach narrative strategies like dialogue, or can be revisited to incorporate figurative language or character development. Noticing students' responses to the open-ended items will demonstrate where they need focused intervention. Our experience in reviewing students' responses tells us that areas most students need help in are perfect opportunities for mini-lessons. Take a moment to review the various ways the interim assessments and supporting resources can be used to complement instruction and improve student learning. Some suggestions for mini-lessons include finding vocabulary in context, identifying arguments and evidence in text, using implicit and explicit details to support inferences and conclusions, using text evidence for elaboration, or summarizing central ideas and key details. Students need help with metacognitive skills such as note-taking strategies. Students need opportunities to write for different purposes and audiences, develop introductions and conclusions, citing and attributing information, using appropriate and varied transitional strategies, effective language and word choice, all conventions, and analysis within or across text. So think about customizing your own mini-lessons following your unique observations when scoring student responses using the Teacher Hand scoring system and data analysis using Airways reporting. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.